toward the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of Guidance. Our theme for tonight is perspective. So let me start with some words from Pir Vilayat. Illumination is associated with awakening, and awakening may be described in terms of experience, such as suddenly seeing things from a different perspective. An example would be walking in the woods and having a sense of being in a transfigured world, one that is absolutely magical. In our usual representation of the world, it's the commonplace focus of our consciousness, which is rather limited. One's vantage point can change, and the consequence is that one's perspective on what one means by reality switches over and clicks into a totally different perspective. Awakening in life does not mean being caught in the constraint of the personal perspective. It means being aware of it while reconciling it to a cosmic and transcendental perspective, both together. Now you pull yourself together and awaken immediately. One is aware of an overwhelming cosmic force in one. This is the nature of one's real being. So we're going to exercise our perspective muscles, so to speak, tonight, and practice shifting from one perspective to another. And Pir Vilayat talks about how the aim of the Sufis is to be able to simultaneously perceive from two different points of view, from the human and the divine perspectives, and to realize both of these as, excuse me, different aspects of our one true being. He called it toggling. So that's the initial step, back and forth and back and forth. But eventually we can experience this circulation as a unitive state, as the juxtaposition of two different vantage points, both parts of our true self. So let's start with our usual vantage point, which is awareness of our physical self, of what's perceived through the senses, of our sense of what our body is, and our sense of what is separate from our body, what exists in our environment. So wherever you are listening to this, just take a little time, open your eyes and just look around and feel how you are perceiving your perspective of you and what you're looking at. And probably you're seeing all these as just separate things in your surroundings. And you may have different associations with some of them. You may have different emotional responses. Some may not generate any emotions. Some things may generate feelings of happiness or sadness or nostalgia. So that's our default setting, so to speak. It's where we start from. But if we take to heart what the mystics say, that everything is a manifestation of the divine being, and furthermore, each of us is a unique expression of that divine being, then we are each a different aspect of the divine being experiencing itself through us. So Pir Vilayat would say the first stage is we experience ourselves as the eyes through which God sees. And at a later stage, we experience ourselves as being the divine glance. So let's try a big shift. Try it on for size. So if everything is an aspect of the divine being, and if the purpose of creation, of manifestation, is for the divine being to know him herself through everything that exists in manifestation, then we could say that everything that we're experiencing is an aspect of the divine seeking to know itself through everything else in manifestation, and that includes ourself. So Pir Vilayat would often have us experience practices of getting into the consciousness of other things, getting into the consciousness of a tree or a flower or even an animal, or it could be a river, or it could be the consciousness of the sky. So pick something in your environment. It can be an object, a living object, what we consider an inanimate object. It could be a stone, a crystal. It could be space. It could be the earth beneath your feet. And see if you can just allow yourself to open into experiencing the consciousness of that, not through concepts in your mind like, well, I think it's like this or that, but just imagine if you could experience that as a living manifestation of divinity experiencing itself through all the rest of existence. So let's take a little time for that. And one way you could do this is to, whatever that you've picked to work with, experience how that experiences you. If it's a tree, how does the tree experience your being? And at a certain point, you may begin to experience your sense of yourself merging with the consciousness of that which you are experiencing. So there's no longer two separate things. It's one consciousness. And now return to your to your, and I'll put it in quotes, individual consciousness, but now you may have a different sense of yourself. You may experience yourself as no longer stopping at the boundaries of your skin. You may feel yourself in this deep interconnectedness with what's around you, what before seemed to be something separated from you. And the Sufis talk about our realm, our sphere of responsibility and influence, and we can extend that realm. So if you're having that sense of interconnectedness with what's immediately around you, you can allow your awareness now to extend out to much greater distance and feel that same connectedness with a broad area. Perhaps even to the entire earth. To the solar system, to the stars, to the galaxies, to the universe. You are a window of the divine into itself, experiencing itself as you, through you, and from everything you're experiencing. And this is what we can call a state of cosmic consciousness, expanding in what's the horizontal dimension. So this is extending consciousness spatially, and we can also have a similar experience temporally through time. So reflect back on yourself at a very young age, perhaps the earliest age you can remember in your life, and experience the consciousness of yourself at that age, how the world seemed to be. And at that young age, perhaps even imagining what it would be like to be grown up, to be much older, in fact, to be the age that you are currently. So experience how that much younger you experiences yourself in the present time, and vice versa. And if you like, you can add to this experience, you can insert the consciousness of yourself at different ages, different milestones throughout your life, all parts of a continuity of your being throughout time. Imagine each age of yourself experiencing the consciousness of you at all the other ages. And feel the oneness of your being throughout these different times, apart from physical changes and changes in ways of thinking and personality. That essence of you that has continued throughout all these different times. And imagine that each breath that you take is now moving through these different times and carrying the light of all the blessings gained from all the experiences of your life. It's circulating. becoming available and blessing you through every age of your life, and even extending this consciousness into the future of your life, even up to the end of your physical existence. Imagine yourself when you know that your time is drawing near and you're engaging in the same experience now, connecting with all that's happened in your life, the essence that's been distilled through all the experiences, all the joys and the sorrows, the discoveries, the ups, the downs. So now we've worked with shifting perspective spatially and temporally. And now we can engage our perspective to help us experience the transcendent aspects of our being, those that exist beyond the usual space and time into subtle realms of existence in which we have a living existence right now. This isn't just after we finish our physical existence on the earth. We have an angelic existence. We have an angelic body. So now allow your perspective to shift to experiencing that angelic aspect of your being that exists in the realm of uncreated light, Nur, the realm of beauty and harmony, innocence. Even Arvi says that we each have our own personal angel. Sometimes described also as our Rab, our personal Lord. So allow your manifest self now to be able to experience that personal angel or personal Lord of your being, not by effort of the mind or will, but by just relaxing into and being receptive and opening to that which is the most natural experience of your being, to experience that connection with the divine aspect of who you are. As the Quran says, closer than your jugular vein. Just opening to it. It's right there. Feel that blessing, that energy of pure spirit descending through your, even your manifest physical being. It's a stream, a shower of energy, lighting up the cells of your body and even the molecules and the atoms. Celestial light coming down into physical manifestation. And you are the conduit that enables that process to go on. Feel the light that emerges from you that has been transformed through the uniqueness of your being and all the experiences that you have had and are continuing to have in every instant, every moment. a light that returns back to the source that's been added to in a way that could only happen through you. It's your gift and your blessings return to the divine being. And at the same time, can you allow yourself to experience from the perspective of your divine self how that aspect of you experiences your manifest self? How your personal Lord experiences you, what he or she discovers through you and delights in you, and is amazed and surprised by from you. And this capacity for seeing in this way, not seeing through our physical eyes, but the Sufis would say, seeing with the eyes of the heart. So we're going to share a pair of divine names. And the first is Yah, Y-A, which means we're invoking the quality, and Basir, B-A-S-I-R, Basir, which means the divine seeing. So this is seeing with the eyes of the heart. And this is really, I would say, seeing through our human divine being, Yah Basir. And it's a seeing that's more than just the usual way we perceive sight as passive experience. Even in our physical eyes, it's been established and measured that photons come from our eyes. And in experiments with meditators who are experienced, when they're meditating on light, many more photons are emanated from their eyes. So this type of seeing is a transformative seeing. It's a seeing that catalyzes, that helps to bring forth the expression of the divine in whatever it is that we're perceiving, whether it's in what we think of as the physical realm, in the horizontal dimension, but also in what we think of as the transcendent dimension, the subtle realms of our being. So that's Basir. And the second practice is Khabir. We've worked with this before, some of us. Khabir. Khabir. And Khabir is the wisdom that's gained through life's experience. So when we put these together, it's this seeing with the eyes of the heart and the divine wisdom that could only come through our human experiences in manifestation, that wisdom that is accrued not only to what we think of as ourselves in manifestation, but is returned to the divine being fulfilling the purpose of our existence, the divine being, that hidden treasure desiring to be known and to love and be loved. So the combination is Yah Basir, this seeing with the eyes of the heart, the divine seeing, and Yah Khabir, this divine wisdom. So I'll say it aloud, and you can do it simultaneously with me where you are. And we'll do it slowly, and let yourself really experience this and feel that you are just really opening to these multiple perspectives, multimodal and multidimensional perspectives of seeing, as we did earlier, the sight that takes place of being able to experience in manifestation the revelation of the divine expressed in so many forms. And we experienced it through time, the past, present, and the future, and also through the transcendent, the physical, and the transcendent to the physical. So I'll say it a few times and join with me. Ya Basir, Ya Khabir, 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 Ya Basir, Ya Khabir. Then silently on the breath without the ya, think Basir as you inhale and Khabir as you exhale. And then without the words, just feel the essence of it. Amen. Now some more passages from Pir Vilayat. When we do Sufi practices, we need to bear in mind the antinomy between these two poles, the personal vantage point and the divine vantage point, that we do not know, but which is revealing itself to us. The divine vantage point cannot be the object of our cognizance. What we do from our personal point of view seems to be active, whereas we are responsive to the divine revelation. So it's both at the same time. Our response enables us to espy the meaningfulness that is coming through the revelation. Gradually, we learn to shift our consciousness from our limited point of view into the divine consciousness. The creative thrust of the universe in us fosters the genesis of form from subliminal patterns of energy. And this is talking about the witness. The witness in us is not different from the object we experience. It's counterpoint when we realize it's all one. We mirror each other and see the similarity and eventually discover our oneness. When we start meditating, we still think of ourselves as a consciousness. We experience life outside our thoughts, our emotions, our subtle body, and so on. We're still consciousness. As we turn within, we can hardly pinpoint it as a source, as a localized witness. The notion of consciousness gets gradually more and more disintegrated, and the notion of intelligence seems to take over. It corroborates a kind of inherent knowledge we already possess, which the Sufis call the knowledge of the soul, and which in philosophy is called proto-critic knowledge. Imagine that we're looking at something out there and it reminds us of something that we know. Instead of thinking we're perceiving something out there, think that we are discovering something we know. We have a kind of inborn knowledge, but that knowledge needs to be corroborated by experience. You are both the witness and that which you're observing. In other words, you are the subject and the world is none other than yourself. It is yourself you are observing, and you're also the observer. You replace the usual way of experiencing and of thinking by basing your cognizance on a very different principle from that of the dichotomy subject-object. That principle is of resonance, of affinity. It's recognizing something because it matches something within you that is not other than yourself. Recognize the other in yourself and yourself in the other, and osmosis between beings. And this is something that I call relational unity. It's experiencing something in a way that you haven't lost who you are, but you don't feel separated from what you're experiencing. Sarwardi proposes the witness in the heavens, seeing things from a different angle. The integration of these two opposite angles would give wisdom. So wisdom is not awakening. Wisdom is a kind of maturity that comes to a person who is conscious of the earth plane. For Murshid Hazrat Inayat Khan, the important thing is spiritual realization in the world, Therefore, awakening leads toward wisdom. This is Hazrat Inayat Khan. The spiritual aspect which remains untouched in every person is as a witness of their life, a soul from within who knows not what itself is, who identifies itself with this other aspect, and therefore takes as a reality that which it witnesses, that which goes on before it as a course of life. When once this real aspect of a person's being is awakened, then it begins to see that it has a voice in the matter too, and then it sees that it must fight for its rights in order to gain liberty. It therefore fights with its own kingdom, which is the other aspect of a person's being which it so long witnessed, and so it gains that strength which enables it in the long run to battle with outer conditions caused by planetary influences. It might take one a lifetime to combat, and yet it would be short to gain the mastery which belongs to the soul. So often in spiritual traditions, the aim and the endpoint is awakening, and what Hazrat Inayat Khan is saying here and what Pir Vilayat is saying here is awakening is not the end. Awakening is something that leads to the purpose, the fulfillment of the reason why we're here, which is wisdom. And it's not a fixed body of wisdom. It's not something sitting there waiting for us to discover. It's something that only arises through what develops through our being, achieving that capacity of relationship with the divine part of ourself in order to birth a wisdom which is not predetermined or pre-existent. And this is the true revelation. Revelation we usually think of as, well, we're having a revelation of something that's already there. Well, this is a human divine revelation that's a revelation both for what we think of as our human part and also a revelation for the divine being that never ends. That this new creation that arises at every instant, we become more and more fully capable of participating in this and unfolding this unique divine wisdom that can only come from each of our souls and contributing to what emerges and what evolves in the divine being able to express itself in manifestation in a fuller and fuller way by what we've become capable of. First, it seems like through our individual awakening in that wisdom, but then we realized, well, we're part of this collective cosmic divine awakening to itself in every realm of existence. And when we're able to align ourselves with that purpose, with other beings in other forms, even in other realms of existence that are working for a similar purpose, then what's capable of coming through is virtually infinitely more than what could happen through an individual solely by themselves. So may the message of God reach far and wide, illuminating and making the whole humanity as one family in the parenthood of God. Amen.